This content is by no means intended for anyone under the age of 13. It is made for adult losers undergoing any sort of existential crisis. Midlives are accepted. Nobody under the age of 13 is allowed. If you are of such an age, I advise you to watch this with a parent or guardian, or kindly get lost. Also, this movie review is not 100% factual. I am merely giving you my unsolicited thoughts on this movie. If you're unable to comprehend that, then please put on your big boy or girl pants and make up your own damn opinions.
Welcome back to another episode of the IAS Shortcast. This is the one-stop shop for a movie fan on the go. Today's episode, are the Oscars rigged? Welcome to the IAS Shortcast. My name is Eamon. Today I'll be your host as we talk film, TV, and much more. Today's episode's stacked. It's a pretty good episode. We're going to be talking a little bit about are the Oscars rigged and what I think about that whole news article that's been going around, and some podcasters and commentary channels have been talking about that, specifically the SCN network and stuff have been talking about the Oscars being rigged, and we'll talk a little bit about that later towards the end of the show. But early on, we've got a few topics here lined up. We've got our, the Bad Boys movie for life. I just saw it. What do I think about it? We'll talk about that. Weathering with You. I just saw that movie. What do I think about it? The Witcher wrapped up the first season. We're going to be talking about that. I finished the first 6 episodes about maybe 3 weeks ago, and then I wrapped up the last 2 episodes last night, so we'll talk more about that later. And finally, Doolittle. I just got my ticket right now. I'm going to be seeing it later tonight. I'm not so sure what to think about that, but we'll get into some of the depth over there. And we've got a few off-the-top topics to talk about real quick. And right off the top, we're looking at this news article. It says Richard Madden and Priyanka Chopra Jonas are on board for the Russo brothers' Citadel series. Now, I haven't heard much about this, but it says here Amazon certainly isn't being shy about splashing the cash. So it looks like Amazon is going to be taking over this show, directed by Joe and Anthony Russo. Looks like they're going to be producers, and it's certainly the case for the Citadel, because it looks like it's going to be a big show. It looks like Amazon is not going to be holding back. They're going to be giving this a pretty big budget, which kudos to them. I mean, it looks like the Lord of the Rings series, which is coming out soon, is going to be a big one. So I think they're doing pretty good for themselves now. Amazon looks like it's going to be, I'm not going to say the biggest, but it looks like it's going to be up there with Netflix and Disney Plus pretty soon. They're much above HBO. HBO had Game of Thrones, which lasted a while, but now that Game of Thrones is gone, I don't think they're going to have much, energy to carry on their streaming service. It looks like many people are going to be dropping HBO because of that. But that looks exciting. I mean, we've already got Matthew McConaughey joined here. I'm seeing a few articles about to talk about, but I'm not going to talk about those. I'm going to be moving on to Ruben Fleischer, the Venom director, Zombieland 1 and 2 director. Absolutely love the guy. Looks like he is in the lead for directing the Uncharted movie. Now, if you guys haven't heard, if this is news to you, the director for Bumblebee and Kubo and the True Strings, I cannot think of his name right now, but it's going to come to mind in 1 second. I'm just going to Google his name real quick. He directed Bumblebee in 2018. Travis Knight, that's his name. Yeah, he came into the Transformers franchise when it was at its lowest point, with the 5th Transformers movie. Came in and gave his absolute best with this with that recent one, and it was an absolute gold piece. I loved it. I think I reviewed it back in 2018. All that said, I think this is going to be it was a great decision when they hired Travis Knight. But then Travis Knight left because of the whole creative differences thing, which, oh my god, I mean, this creative differences thing is going to be killing me. I need to understand what's going on behind the scenes, because sometimes it's just, what do you mean creative differences? But hey, I mean, they lost a great director in Travis Knight, and it looks like they're going for mediocre directors. I mean, I'm not going to call Ruben Fleischer a mediocre director. I thought Venom was good. I'm not a big fan of, Zombieland 1 and 2 are 2 of my favorite movies. 2 of my favorite comedies, sorry. But, some of his other movies aren't really gold. He doesn't really have much to do besides the Zombieland movies and Venom. Gangster Squad, that I thought was a piece of trash. It was a wreck. 30 minutes or less. I mean, I laughed, but that's all it is. There was just a few laughs, and that's it. There's nothing else to the movie. Two Night Stand is one of the worst movies of that year. I completely dislike that movie. And, sometimes it doesn't look like he directed, actually. He may not have directed that movie, which is safe. But yeah, some of his movies are just completely just trash. 30 minutes or less. did not enjoy. And it's not like he has a big resume. He's got a pretty small resume. I mean, he's got a few movies here and there that he's been in and that he's written. But as far as directing, it looks like he's only directed 4 to 5 movies. He's got 2 Zombieland movies, 1 Venom movie, Gangster Squad, 30 Minutes or Less, and that's pretty much it. He's got a Bad Trip movie coming out in 2020. So it looks, if that's the case, if he's directing this movie, I don't think he's going to be able to release it for another 2 years, maybe 2022. Because right now he's got the Bad Trip movie, which is coming out. So I've kind of lost my excitement for the Uncharted series. I thought it was going the right way. They got Tom Holland, pretty young actor to come in so they can have a franchise going. But it looks like this might not pan out the way we thought it would, which is an absolute shame. I mean, God, come on. I love the Uncharted series. I mean, that fourth game was absolutely insane. I mean, I absolutely love the third one. I have the most nostalgia with any video game with that third one. I remember playing that on my PlayStation 3 when I got that for the first time. It was one of those situations where one of those games I just played even after I beat the game. I just started over again. I probably beat the game like 4 times. It's just one of those games. And then the fourth one comes out and I'm like, this might be better, but I still prefer the third one because that's just got a lot of nostalgia to it. But even then, I'm kind of disappointed with this because sometimes I'm sitting there thinking, what are they gonna do with this movie? Because they've got a pretty good cast coming, but sometimes it's just like they're probably gonna just F it up like they did with the with some other video game movies, Mortal Kombat. I liked the what's that game with Alicia Vikander? I can't remember what that movie was that came out recently. It's Tomb Raider. That wasn't bad. I liked it, but I mean, that's one of the few. There's also Silent Hill. Silent Hill was one of those games that I wasn't the biggest fan of until I watched the movie. And so when I watched the movie, I had to go back and play the games. And Silent Hill is actually pretty good. I like the video games, and the movie it's not bad. I like the movie. I mean, there's so much more they could have done with it. But it's one of my guilty pleasures. My family loves that movie, Silent Hill. So that's one of the movies that I do think is one of the best video game movies out there. So let's hope that Uncharted the movie pans out well. We've got a few topics here lined up, so let's get to them immediately. Bad Boys for Life releases in 2 days on the 17th. And let me tell you what, this was a blast. I mean, I haven't seen the first Bad Boys. From what I can remember, I haven't seen it. I've seen the second one, which was absolute disaster. I mean, Michael Bay is one of those directors that completely, when he makes a movie, everybody's interested until they see the movie. Sometimes it's absolutely insane. What he did with the recent movie, I have a hard time thinking about it, but give me 1 second. I'm just gonna have to go on my blog here and check what that movie is called. He released it like a month ago. 6 Underground, I think it was. There we go. Yeah, 6 Underground was an absolute mess. I mean, what he did with that movie, that's a movie you cannot F up. You cannot F up a movie with Ryan Reynolds that has to do with heist. Who does that? You cannot F that up. And he managed to do that. And I mean, some of the decisions he made in those movies just absolutely got to me. I was just annoyed and uninterested in him anymore. But it's just an absolute disaster. So seeing Bad Boys for Life coming out now and it's not directed by him, I kind of went in with a little bit of excitement. And I'll tell you what, I was not disappointed. It wasn't what I expected it to be. I certainly thought it was going to be more of an action movie. It had a little bit of depth. Obviously, we have the action that's there. It's a Bad Boys movie. It's got to have its action. But it's not on the level of Michael Bay movie. With Michael Bay, action is not just action. Action is hyper-realistic, explosions with a camera right below the tire, with the angle of a dog just staring up at the sky while a Transformers destroys the entire cloud. It's insane. With this movie, the action is more held back. It's understandable. It's easy to perceive the action. So you're watching it, you understand what's going on. It's simple action. I mean, it's not complicated and it's not stupid. It's simple action. It's not oversimplified, but it is simple. So it's easy for the audience to understand what's going on screen. And cameras are put in the right place. There's no shaky cam or anything. There's one shaky cam racing scene, but that's towards the middle of the movie and it lasts about 2 minutes. And that was absolutely fine. There was stuff they did there that they could not do for real because we could not be able to see the actors' faces because some of the stunts they did were absolutely insane. But hey, the Bad Boys movies are known for their interactions with main characters, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. So how was it? It was much better than it deserves to be. Some of the acting in this is actually insane, especially with Martin Lawrence. Towards the end, Martin Lawrence gives one of my favorite performances of his. It's on the level of like Big Mama or something. Like, he's just hilarious. And then obviously Will Smith has more of a dramatic role in this. He's funny, but more of a dramatic role than the other movies. He kind of wants to bring Martin Lawrence back into this life, but he feels content with Martin Lawrence's character just leaving the life and living his life separate, and just wanting him to be safe. And it's one of those moments where you're surprised that one of these movies is giving you a shock like this. I mean, it's insane. But hey, that's kind of what it's kind of what you expect with any action movie, to give you a little bit of depth. And I love how Bad Boys gives you a little bit of depth, and it turns out to be a great decision. So I want to take a look at what it has on Rotten Tomatoes, because I haven't looked. I usually don't look at Rotten Tomatoes because sometimes it just there's a movie you like and it has a lower, it gets annoying. But I'm curious because the other two have like 30 and 40%. I want to see what this one has. So I'm just gonna load up Rotten Tomatoes here while I'm doing the show. Yeah, I know, very professional. So it's loading up. There we go. And it looks like it has a 77%. How many reviews? 26 reviews, 77%. It says 81 on the page, but 77 on the side. There we go. 29 reviews and 77%, which seems reasonable for this movie. Tons of like big outlets are hating. The CNN.com hates it. The Wrap gives it a rotten review. Chicago Tribune, we've got who's Guccio Reviews? I don't know who that is, but Slant Magazine gives it a rotten review. But also, some big outlets are giving it some pretty good review. The Hollywood Reporter gives it a positive review, and Entertainment Weekly gives it a positive review. So there we go. Even New York Magazine and Vulture both give it a positive review. So there we go. That's interesting to look at. We're gonna move on to The Witcher, and I just saw The Witcher. I wrapped it up. Well, I didn't just see it. I saw it like 6 weeks ago, but I wrapped it up last night. And what did I think about it? See, I think it's holding like a 55% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is absolutely insane and crazy. But hey, it's all subjective, right? So it looks like it's holding a 66%, which is better than what I saw it had last time. I will tell you what, the first episode had me worried because there are some moments in there that kind of feel Game of Thrones-esque. There's a scene in a bar which just felt very cheap. It felt very, it felt unprofessional. It felt almost like it was a low-budget film being set, in a cheap bar. Kind of like the Hobbit movie when Gandalf goes to meet one of the dwarves in a flashback. It kind of felt like that. And there's a moment in the very beginning when he's talking to a child, and I'm just there like, please tell me this child's not in the majority of the show. And luckily she's not. She leaves pretty soon, but she's replaced with another annoying character who I won't spoil if you guys haven't seen the show. But let's just say it's somebody who loves music, and sometimes this character can get on your nerve. There's some really good moments. I mean, there's some moments where you kind of feel for the character, especially towards the end when the Witcher and this character go their separate ways. You kind of feel, but for the most part, this character is annoying. He kind of feels like Jar Jar Binks in a certain way. And some of the CGI, when his eyes turn black, it kind of feels like a video game. Some of the monsters that are floating kind of look like a video game. I mean, that's probably what they were going for, but still, it's a movie. You gotta have, more textured and grainy effects. You can't have it look so slick and, like you're watching a sci-fi movie from the 80s and stuff like that. It can't be the case. So I'm not against all the CGI. I think some of the CGI is pretty good, but for the most part, the CGI is my negative. But let's talk about what I liked, and that's Henry Cavill as The Witcher. I have not seen better casting in my life. I'm gonna turn into Al Pacino. In my life, I have never seen better casting. There's a moment in the show. I think it's the second episode of the first episode. It's the first episode actually, when The Witcher is kind of talking to somebody that he doesn't like, and he kind of cusses, and he says something. I've never seen somebody swear in a cool way in my life. That was the coolest use of that swear word I've ever seen. He goes, it's one of those moments where you're just like, yep, Henry Cavill is the Witcher, and that's gonna remain the truth forever. And I do hope to see it season 2, because I do like the character. For the most part, with the first season, I do feel like it's on and off. There are some great moments, there are some off moments. And what I'll say is that they have set the groundwork pretty well, meaning that the only negatives are stuff they can change. They can fix the CGI in the second season. They can replace some weird characters in the second season. What you can never do in a second season is get us interested in the character when you didn't do that in the first season. In the first season, we're interested in the protagonist. Give me 1 second. I'm just gonna pull his name. I can't remember the character's name. But yeah, you cannot pull us back from a season when you haven't interested us in a character like that. We have to be interested in the character right from the get-go. And sometimes it is tough, in second season to pull audiences back and care for a character more. But what they had us do with Geralt of Rivia, that's his name, Geralt of Rivia, is insane, because that's a character that usually isn't likable. But what they did with him was completely likable. And I can't remember the actress name. I think her name is Anya Shiloch. I can't remember the rest of it. Anya Shiloch something. She was incredible. She's probably my favorite part of the show. There's another character named Siri. I can't remember the actress's name, but she was just great. Some of the work they did there was absolutely incredible with her, and she's a younger character, so usually those characters aren't really that relatable. So what they did here was amazing. So again, to wrap up my thoughts on The Witcher, I think it's a good season. I'll call it good, with an excellent setup, meaning that next season we could take the show into a direction that is not only unpredictable, but gets us to care for the characters even more, because we already do care for them. Some people are calling this a Game of Thrones ripoff. I don't think that's true. I think Game of Thrones rips off other shows. Game of Thrones is not original. It's ripping off Lord of the Rings, of course. It's ripping off a bunch of other shows, and sometimes it does, movies are, you cannot have something be completely original. And for the most part, it stays honest and true to the book, which not really the video game, but it stays honest and true to the books. And that's kind of where we're getting this from. And, if next season comes out and they're going in the route of, I'm not going to spoil it, but let's just say that Anya Shalotra should have a bigger role next season than Henry Cavill himself. If that's the case, then I'm absolutely for it. We'll see what happens. But let's move on to something else, and that's that I am seeing Dolittle tonight, and I am completely, I'm not going to say shocked. I'm going to go with I don't know what to use, because it's insane, because most movies tend to have their review embargo lifted like a week before the movie comes out. Hell, 5 days. The movie's coming out in 2 days, and the review embargo is not lifted, which means only one thing: the movie sucks. And that's a shame, because I was looking forward to this. I thought the trailers were really good. Turns out most people did not like the trailers, and it's actually gonna bomb, which is insane. Rami Malek's in there. We got Ray Fiennes, Selena Gomez, Emma Thompson, Robert Downey Jr., John Cena, Octavia Spencer, Marianne Cotillard. We got Antonio Banderas, Michael Sheen, Craig Robinson, who was in Joker, Carmen Ejoga, I don't know who that is, but we got Jim Broadbent from the Harry Potter films, Tom Holland, Kumail Nanjiani, Francis De La Torre, obviously from the famed Nutcracker film, and we've got Jessie Buckley, and that's kind of the extent of the famous actors in this name. But that's a lot. It's like 10 actors who are all A-list and like 6 B-list actors in there. That's insane. That's actually incredible. Obviously, the A-list actors here would be Robert Downey Jr., Emma Thompson, Ray Fiennes, Rami Malek, Octavia Spencer, Marion Cotillard, Antonio Banderas, and Michael Sheen. These are all A-list actors. B-list actors here would be Tom Holland, Craig Robinson, Jim Broadbent, and Kumail Nanjiani. These are all B. I'll add Frances De La Torre to A-list, because she's not an actor of today. She's probably more famous in the 80s. Obviously, yeah, John Cena is also B-list, so there we go. And Selena Gomez, I call a C-list, because she doesn't really act. She's a singer, but it's insane. This is a movie you'd expect to have great reviews, turn out greatly, and it's obviously not really a remake of the Eddie Murphy Doolittle from back in the 90s, 1998 and later, but they're based on similar source materials. And we've also got a Doolittle from 2008. We've got a 1967 Doolittle, which I haven't seen, but I'm told is not great either. So I'm not really excited for that. We'll see what happens with that in a future episode, because I'm releasing the next episode on Friday, and I'll tell you guys what I think, because by then, hopefully the review embargo will be lifted, and we'll talk more about Doolittle then. But let's talk about the last thing here, and then we'll wrap up the show. The Oscars. Holy shit. People are going insane online, talking about the Best Picture nominations are rigged, and some of the actors are rigged, and oh my god, sometimes it gets annoying, because here's what I think. When people say somebody was snubbed, here's my opinion of somebody being snubbed. Do you think that they had a chance to win? Yes? And who would you replace them with? If you've got those two questions answered, then it's a snub. If you can't answer those two questions, then it's not a snub. Some people are saying that, that actors like Adam Sandler should have been nominated for Best Actor, which I'm like, fair enough, he did a great job. But would you remove Antonio Banderas for him? Would you remove Leonardo DiCaprio? I personally would, but most people wouldn't. Adam Driver, Joaquin Phoenix, Jonathan Pryce. If you'd remove somebody for him, then sure, that's the case. But most of the time, people just don't understand what the point of a snub is. People just overuse the term snub, and people call the Oscars rigged, which I don't get it. And some people, there's a big question out there. People are asking for the Oscars to extend to 10 nominations per category, which I completely disagree with. And their whole thing about it is that they disagree with what the Oscars are nominating, so therefore it's wrong. Which, completely, you guys know the point of this channel is it's all subjective. That's the point. We need to understand that film, art, everything is subjective. So when the Oscars nominate, say Ford versus Ferrari or The Irishman for, Best Picture, it's their choice. There's 9,000 Oscar voters, and 9,000 of them have this opinion for the most part. This is a majority. The majority of these 9,000 have this opinion, and it's an opinion. It does not make it fact because it's, the Oscars. The Oscars aren't doing any sciences behind it. Sorry, that's my phone. The Oscars don't. It's the Academy of Art and Sciences, but there's no science behind Best Picture. There's no science behind Best Director. It's all just opinion based, and people need to understand that opinions are opinions, and your opinion is not right, and somebody else's opinion is not wrong. That's just something people need to understand, and I just needed to express that because sometimes people do get carried away. But hey, let's take a look at some of the names people are listing here. People are saying that Awkwafina was snubbed, which I don't agree with, but hey, if you think she was, fair enough. But I would not remove Cynthia Erivo for Harriet for Awkwafina. I would not remove Scarlett Johansson, Saoirse Ronan, Charlize Theron, maybe Renee Zellweger, but even then, they're kind of on the same level. It doesn't really change a thing. Supporting actors, people, or, not supporting, lead actors, people are talking about Robert De Niro being snubbed. I think De Niro personally would not fit anywhere in that list. I think Leonardo DiCaprio is the one person that could be removed, but even then, I think DiCaprio and De Niro have the same sort of performance. So there's no snub there. People overuse and tend to be hypocrites with the way they use the word snub. Snub does not refer to a movie that you like more than another. Just if there's a movie that you would remove from the list and replace with something else, then that's a snub. That's what that word means. So people tend to overuse that word. So again, just remember, guys, it's all subjective. The Oscars, it's 9,000 Oscar voters who have a certain opinion that they're entitled to. Your opinion is not right. Somebody else's opinion is not wrong. People have a tough time understanding that everything is opinion based. Yes, it is called the Academy of Arts and Sciences, but there is no science to film. There's no quantifiable way to measure how well a film is, rated or any of the sorts. There's no way to, you can't take an equation and go, well, let's take the acting, multiply that by the cinematography, and divide it by the direction, and there we go. The movie is a 9 out of 10. That's not how that works. sometimes people give numbers to films like when they rate them, but that's just for the sake of enjoyment for reviewers, because I personally don't give ratings when I review, because there's no point of giving a rating. Ratings don't add anything to the overall quality of a film. They don't mean much. And if you take a look at Rotten Tomatoes, what Rotten Tomatoes essentially does is it does not tell you what the film is. It tells you what people think about it, which is why I love Rotten Tomatoes. It takes maybe 10 critics, and if 10 critics all gave their opinions on, say, Dolittle, and 6 of them disliked the movie, 4 of them liked the movie, then the movie would get a 40%. They take how many people liked it, and that's the rating. So if out of 100 people, 62 people liked it, then that's a 62%. Obviously, I'm oversimplifying it. The calculations are harder if there's an odd number somewhere in there, and there's obviously sometimes it's over 600 people. So all in all, guys, you just remember it's all subjective. And I just want to wrap the show with that, because sometimes these people are they're just upset that their opinion was not heard, which fair enough. I mean, we all want our opinion to be heard, but your opinion is not right. It does, just because you feel a certain way does not make your opinion quantifiably the true textbook definition of what that movie is. That is just wrong. So there we go. I'm gonna wrap up the show here, guys, with a fitting catchphrase that we have over here, to just remember, it's all.